What's up, America? How y'all doing tonight? Hope God is blessing everyone. Hope everyone is enjoying the freedoms that come with the flag in this great country. Everyone is not enjoying those freedoms, obviously. Right now, there are people in democratic strongholds that are law-abiding working class Americans who are not free because mob rule and the fact that criminals are actually being made priority over the working class Americans. So basically I want to talk about the difference in living in a progressive liberal stronghold versus, you call it a red state, you call it a conservative state, however you want to look at it, a state of freedom, okay? And we're going to talk about the freedom part, but we're also going to talk about certain things like taxes and how these progressive liberal strongholds take taxes off the American working class people and allocate it to all kinds of little pet projects and BS purposes. So when you talk about democratic strongholds, we're talking about cities that were failing before Corona. And if you look at all of these cities, they're all big cities. They all have had democratic controlled government for well over 30 years. And if you look, we're talking about California, San Francisco, LA. We're talking about Seattle. We're talking about Portland. We're talking about Chicago. We're talking about New York City. We're talking about Pittsburgh. We're talking about Baltimore. We're talking about all these places that are just ridden in crime. New Orleans. If you look at New Orleans, or Louisiana rather, is a red state. But if you look at New Orleans itself, it's actually controlled by Democrats. Now, every one of these cities were failing on the books before Corona. They have the highest tax rates in the country, okay? They have the most restrictions on what you can do. They have the most restrictions on your Bill of Rights, constitutional amendments. They have the most restrictions on what weapons you can have to defend yourself from the criminals. The criminals have no restrictions because they don't follow the laws. So they buy whatever weapons they choose illegally, or they steal them however they get them. And they hold the people in these cities basically hostage. So let's start off with the taxes. Places like New York, San Francisco, LA, Seattle, places like that, they do not only tax the citizens at a very high rate. If you're a working class American, you pay more taxes in a place like that than you do, say, in, South Carolina, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, you name it. And if you look, the places that I just named, they all are able to balance their budgets well. They tax their people like anywhere else, but they actually balance their budgets and they don't spend the money on ridiculous things. When I say ridiculous things, one of the things I'm talking about right now, let's just say California, for instance. Right now in San Francisco, they have taken homeless people who don't have anything to their name, but the majority of them are strung out on dope. They don't work. They don't pay taxes. They're not contributing to society. The people who are working and contributing to society are having their tax dollars taken to put these drug addicted people up in hotels. Then, if they choose to continue their addiction, they are being supplied with cigarettes, alcohol, drugs of all sorts, all off the backs of taxpayers. Now, you would think that these working class Americans would have a problem with their tax dollars going basically to strung out druggies who don't contribute to society, but they don't. The reason they don't is because the mind frames in these cities is all about wokeness. It's all about who can pander. It's all about who can virtue signal to how good of a person they are. Well, guess what? I don't want any of my money, not one red cent contributed to someone who's strung out on dope and don't want to do their own, that don't want to get clean and don't want to do what they're supposed to do. If my money was contributed to someone getting help, I probably would not have as much of an issue with that. I would still say, okay, well, if you're going to contribute my money to that, I want to see some individual accountability and responsibility. I want to see where this person's trying to get clean. I want to see where this person's trying to get a job and they're trying to better their life. I want to see that this person is not out having kids and children that they can't afford for the taxpayers to take care of. And number one, it has to be a citizen. I do not believe in American tax dollars going to people who are not citizens of this country. I just don't believe in that. The reason we pay taxes is we pay taxes for our government to run. We pay taxes for our government to supply the needs of the citizen. The needs of the citizen. It's just like, I'm going to take something simple like the Corona package, the bailouts. Congress passed this huge, huge debt on the backs of American people. And what did they do with the money? The money went to their pet projects. They mailed us out a little BS $1,200 check if we paid into the system. And a lot of people who didn't pay into the system, they started paying people more money to sit at home than they would make going to work in a lot of places. And they basically tried to crash the system. Now, what they did do, because if they had took the money and divided it among American citizens, American working class people, every working class citizen who paid into taxes should have got $7,000, not $1,200, $7,000. So basically, they broke it down. They said, okay, we're going to give the working class people $1,200. We're going to take the other $5,800 and we're going to put it on our pet projects. We're going to give it to art schools. We're going to give it to, just name the pet project, they gave it to it. That wasn't right. American working class people have to pay this back. But nobody batted an eye at it because of the fact it was coronavirus. It was about public safety. What people don't realize, they basically robbed us blind on that. And nobody seems to have a problem with it. And that's what these liberal cities do. They rob the tax-paying people blind. Right now, in these liberal cities, they are saying small business owners and working class Americans cannot go to work. Can't go to work. You can't go to church. You do not have the right to worship your God how you feel, no matter who the God is. All that is in the Constitution. It's the very First Amendment that you have the right to worship how you choose. The government does not have a right to limit that. They don't have the power to limit that. That's their overreach. If you look at the Second Amendment, the Second Amendment gives you the right to bear arms. It gives you the right to bear arms and to possess, bear everything, in case of government tyranny. And that's key to it. People don't understand that. That's very key to the reason you have that Second Amendment right. Now, When you look at these liberal cities, they were failing, like I said, before Corona, because they've been piss poorly managed. And right now, in each and every one of these cities, they are demonizing our cops, great men, great women of all races out there trying to protect and serve. They're demonizing our cops. They're making cops out to be the number one enemy, when if you actually look at the numbers and actually look at the statistics, the cops are not the problem. The criminals are the problem. And I know what you're going to say. Well, Jamie, how come we see so much cop violence? Well, the reason we see so much cop violence is because of the fact that 95% of the time, the cops are in the right. They're just doing their job. The criminals actually escalate the situation till they put themselves into that position. Then the media actually blows it up and starts making excuses for these people. George Floyd was an exception. I'm not gonna talk about George Floyd negatively. He's deceased, and I do not believe in the way he died. So I'm not gonna talk about him negatively. So and the reason I'm not gonna talk about him negatively is because, yes, I could point out his past, all that, but I'm not going to. I don't believe in it. I believe that George Floyd should have never died the way he died. And I believe that those cops should be fully held responsible for that. On the other hand, somebody like Rayshard Brooks. Rayshard Brooks was a career criminal as well. Rayshard Brooks got out of prison because of Corona. Rayshard Brooks was breaking the law actively, and he attacked officers. At that point, he put himself in a position to die. And I'm going to spin that around because I don't like the shadow in my eyes and I can't see as well. So, in Atlanta, in downtown Atlanta, it's a very liberal place. Very progressive. A lot of virtue signaling. You've got corrupt politicians there that are terrible. You've got a huge state in Georgia. Georgia's a large state. Most of it's rural. And if you look at the rural areas in Georgia, they're run very well. Not only they run very well, but people have rights in those rural areas. Whereas in Atlanta, people don't have rights. You've got a corrupt prosecutor there who has been involved in everything from sexual assault allegations to actually robbing from nonprofit organizations. Now, he has these charges on him right now, and he is actually going after these officers that defended themselves. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, Jamie, he was running away. He pointed a weapon at them. At that point, when you point a weapon at someone, at that point, that person has a right to defend themselves, whether it be a cop or not, anywhere in this country except in these liberal strongholds. And that's the difference. And that's what people have got to look at. Not only in these liberal strongholds are they taking advantage of the working class Americans, but they also limit your right to defend yourself. They try to control you, and they do it through all kinds of things. Crazy ass gun laws. Listen, Chicago's got the strictest gun laws in the country, got the most gun violence. The reason being is because people have no way to defend themselves. If they want to be a law-abiding citizen in Chicago, they cannot say, for instance, run down to the store and grab one of these. Matter of fact, if you was to run to any liberal city, you cannot just run down there and grab this gun the way I have it set up. The reason being is because they have controls on how many rounds the weapon can have. They have controls on how you can alter the weapons. So you could not go and put this gun together like I did. This is a perfect example of a nightstand weapon. When I go to sleep, I put this on my nightstand. It has federal HST ammo in it. That way, if a perp comes into my home, I fire this gun at them. The way these bullets are made to spread, they will penetrate the person, but by the time, if they go all the way through their body, by the time they come out the other side, they're going to be slowed down to a great extent. They're not going to go through the wall and hit my daughter in the other room. They're not going to go through the wall and hit my son. They're not going to do none of that. They're going to hit the person. They're going to mushroom open like they're supposed to, and they're going to stop. These bullets have been tested extensively. That's the reason I use them, for that purpose. And I get a lot of questions about that. I get a lot of people say, hey, Jamie, you know, why do you use this weapon, or why do you use this bullets? Well, that's why. This weapon holds 19 rounds in the clip, a very high capacity for a pistol. I was able to pick up a very nice 1,000-watt flashlight, $150, which I can blind somebody with. But like I say, I can use this where I live. I live in a conservative area. I can buy this, I can put it together, I can put it on my nightstand, and guess what? If somebody if some career criminal perp makes the mistake of walking into my home, I'm going to use this on them. No, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm not going to stop them. I'm not going to ask them no questions. They're going to see that light come on, they're going to be blinded, and I'm going to dump on them. They're done. Comes with 2 more magazines. I have 55 rounds. 55 rounds right here. These 55 rounds are going to come hot. They're going to come fast. Multiple people come in the home, I've got it covered. Now, one person. Now, and here's another thing you got to realize. Each state has different laws. The liberal states outlaw guns like that. In a liberal state, this is what you could have. And you got to have a permit to have this. So in a liberal state, progressive state, like California, Chicago, New York, wherever, you're going to have to go down, you're going to have to get you a permit to get this weapon. It's a single stack magazine. It holds 10 rounds. This is my actual carry weapon that I keep with me at all times. The reason I keep it with me at all times, it's lightweight, it's concealable. It's a great gun. It's very accurate. I have done some alterations to it. I have altered the sights, daytime, nighttime sights. They glow nice at night. I can get a bead on you pretty quick. But this gun is a carry gun. This is what you keep with you. And at the moment, I've got Liberty. And I usually, in my carry pistol like this, I keep the Liberty 50 grain ammo. It travels at 2,000 feet per second. I can get that ammo where I'm at, whereas in a Democratic state, you cannot get that ammo. They've outlawed it. But I can get that ammo, and even though that ammo can penetrate Kevlar, so if you've got on a vest or whatever, I can penetrate that with this. So it's a perfect carry weapon. But this ain't going to protect you at home. It's not going to. You have 4 or 5 people breaking your house. Yeah, you got 1 10-round mag here. You got 1 10-round mag here. Okay, that's nothing. That's nothing if you're invaded by a group of people. Now, if I'm out on the street and I see trouble coming my way and I position myself to a safe point, a safe location, and I'm not out to harm someone, but at the same time, I'm going to protect myself. This is a perfect weapon. The perfect weapon. And like I say, in that situation, all you're doing is trying to suppress the other person or defend yourself. That's what this weapon's for. But in, like I said, these Democratic strongholds, you get this. All right? Where I live, I get this. So I have a much better chance of defending my home with this than I do this. I mean, I'm not going to carry this around with me all day. I could. I'm not going to, though. It's heavy. It's larger. It's just not worth the extra hassle of carrying it, where I might be in a store, say, and it started getting robbed. I can position myself, and I'm good enough at shooting this weapon to where it's going to be, you know, one shot and they're going to drop. So I've got, like I said, this is a perfect carry gun, but I can have this if I want to. Liberal states, you can have this. With a permit. With a permit, you can have this. Okay? That's one huge difference. The freedom I have to defend myself versus the freedom you have to defend yourself, huge difference. Let's go to another topic. This right here. Perfect home protection. Probably the best home protection ever invented. Not very expensive. I mean, you pay $350 for one of these. I can actually hunt with this. I can use it as home protection. It's great for home protection. You just point and shoot. You don't even have to aim. It's 12 gauge. If you notice right there, what I have is I have a slug and a buckshot. A slug and a buckshot. And it's actually loaded up that way as well. And the reason I have that is because the way I have it loaded up, it actually leads the first round with a buckshot, so I don't even have to aim. But the second round has a slug. So if I get that first round off without aiming, that next round, I am going to take the time to get an aim shot and take you out of here. Great weapon. This is the best home defense weapon. Now, here we go again, back to liberal versus progressive versus conservative states. I can buy this gun exactly the way it's set up. And it is set up to be a combat shotgun. I could hunt with it if I want, but it is a combat shotgun. It has a pistol grip. It has a stock. It has the elevated sights. As you can see, this is a weapon for protection. Versus in a liberal state, you can't have this. All you can have is this. You're not going to have these sights. You're going to have a bead at the end of the gun because that's what the laws permit. And you're not going to, you know, I'd have to check into it. I doubt seriously if you can even get some of the same ammo that we run in conservative states just because there's so many regulations on the shit. Great gun for home defense. However, you're limited on your capacity. Reloading, all that's a bitch. So if I got 1-2 people, 1-2 career criminal perps trying to come in my home, I'm going to probably drop them with this. And if they don't get dropped with this, I'm going to back it up with this. Pretty good combination. I shoot a lot, so I'm very good at shooting. Very accurate with my shots. And I've got the actual ammo and the weapon set up to where I'm not going to kill everybody in the house. I'm not going to kill my neighbors. Whereas versus this. Great gun. Great weapon. I can't use this for self-defense in my home. If I'm using this for self-defense in my home, I'm going to kill everybody else in the home. And I'm going to kill some neighbors. Because the bullets from this are going to travel through my walls. They're going to travel through neighbors' walls. This weapon is definitely not made for home defense. But in liberal states, a lot of them, you cannot own this weapon. What is this weapon for? Well, let's get into it. I'll tell you what it's for. This particular one is a Springfield St. Edge Victor SBR. So it's a short barrel rifle. This is a weapon that I actually normally keep in my trunk. The reason I keep it in my trunk is because of the civil unrest that we have going on right now. If I'm out in the street and I get stopped and attacked by a mob, I'm going to use this to get me to my trunk. Once I'm able to get to this, it really don't matter how big that mob is. They're either going to back off or they're not going to be around to talk about it anymore. Because this weapon is set up for conflict. Adjustable stock or brace. You got an adjustable brace. You've got a 3-pound trigger. You've got holographic optic. You also have iron sights if you need them. The way it is set up, the lightweight capacity, the lightweight weaponry, I guess, it's very tactical, very easy to maneuver. I have this gun set at about 75 yards, but it doesn't matter. From 75 yards in, I can pretty much take you out with this. It's not gonna matter. But the reason I did set it up for that is because if I'm out and I need this weapon, more than likely I need this weapon to defend myself and get myself back to where some more weapons are. Bigger, better weapons. But like I say, this is lightweight. It gets the job done. Where I live at, you can pick this weapon up, no problem. As long as you don't have a felony, as long as you don't have a felony conviction, you pick this weapon up and you have the perfect weapon to throw in the trunk. And in case of civil unrest, or you get stranded, or you're under attack by a mob, you can defend yourself. Whereas in these democratic states, you cannot. You can't defend yourself. And if you come out with something like this in these democratic states, unless you're part of a mob, then they'll let you do it. But if you're just a normal working class American, they're going to send the authorities down to take you out. Now, it's ironic as hell, say somewhere like Seattle, where working class Americans, cops, and everybody else are abused terribly between taxes, between the laws that limit what they're allowed to do, allowed to own, and between the way that they actually abuse the shit out of the police there. When they set up Chop Chaz, you saw guys standing around with actually 16-inch. This gun right here is 10.5-inch barrel. You had guys sitting around with a 16-inch barrel, fully functional AR, acting like they were of some kind of authority. And the only thing they did, they ended up shooting innocent black people. I saw the interview of one guy's father from out there that got killed. It was such a sad interview. The poor man, I still feel for him to this day. The 2 kids that went down on the baseball field where they were shot to death, I feel bad. It should have never happened. The liberal policies of that city killed those people. Just take a minute and sink in. If the police had been able to do their jobs, if the bureaucrats had not interfered with the police doing their jobs, all 3 of those people would be alive. All 3 of them. So the bureaucrats were directly responsible for their death because they do not feel like normal everyday citizens should be taken care of. They'll let the criminals be taken care of all day long. But I digress from that. People, this is where we're at. Right now, in all these failing Democrat cities that I just talked about, the limitations that they put on the weaponry where you can defend yourself, the limitations they put on the ammo, the capacities, everything. They want to take that national, okay? If we give these lunatic liberals and these freaking progressive idiots the power, they will try to take this national. They will try to take taxes at an excessive rate from all working class Americans. They will try to take away our religion, our right to practice religion how we see fit. They will keep trying to destroy history. The reason they want to destroy history is because the Democratic Party wants to erase the fact that they have always been the racists in the country. So they would love nothing more than to keep destroying the history. That way people forget about it. And that way people can't actually point to that and say, hey, wait a minute, that was you guys. And they want to take away the right for Americans to defend themselves. Our Second Amendment gives us the right to defend ourselves. The government does not have the power to take that away from us. That is government overreach. That is government tyranny. The Second Amendment gives us the right to defend ourselves against tyranny. I tell people all the time, and I get a lot of questions. A lot of people come to me and they ask me all these different questions, They ask me the same stuff, and I tell them constantly, read the Constitution. You have no idea how much government overreach there already is that's taking advantage of you as an American working class citizen. You have no idea how much the government is going against the Constitution if you don't read the Constitution. So my first advice to everyone, get a copy of the Constitution. Read it. Get you a pocket Constitution. Keep it in your pocket. Everything that we have held dear since this nation was birthed. Freedom of religion, assembly, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is under attack. They are trying to censor us. The reason they want to censor conservatives is because they do not want an alternate point of view. They would rather censor us and shut us up than give us a chance to give our side and somebody say, wait a minute, I'm actually a little more conservative than I am progressive because my ideals line up with your ideals. They like to race bait a lot. And in these big cities, they use that to their advantage. In the end, we've got a choice to make, okay? Conservatives believe in limited government and freedom. We believe in limits to how much taxes we pay. We believe in limits to how much power the government has. We believe in actual freedom, freedom of speech, freedom to practice religion the way you want to. Right now, right this second, in California, New York, different places, they are using the coronavirus as a political weapon. They are actually telling someone, you can't go to church, you can't practice your religion, your faith, your assembly, the way you feel like doing it. You can't do that. But we're going to keep the weed locations open. We're going to keep the liquor stores open. And guess what? Even though you can't assemble in church, we're going to allow protesters. And I fully believe in protests. I have no problem with protests. I believe that's part of America. We should be allowed to protest. Okay? But we cannot pick and choose who gets to protest. We cannot pick and choose who can assemble. You can't say that people can't assemble to practice their religion, but others can assemble to protest. At that point, you're making a decision, a conscious decision on whose rights you are limiting. And that is the problem. Right now, this right here, it tells you, the Constitution tells you, equal protections under the law. In other words, what goes for one goes for all. There's no exceptions. There's no clauses in there that say the governors get to decide this. There is not that, okay? These liberal, progressive governors who are limiting what these people can do when it's their God-given constitutional right, it's illegal, it's immoral, they should not be allowed to do it. But they are picking and choosing who can exercise their constitutional rights. Conservatives do not do this. Conservatives believe everybody should have the right to their constitutional rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, I always say, and I've heard this since I was a kid, you know, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled off was convincing the world he didn't exist. The greatest trick the Democrats ever pulled off was convincing the world they weren't the racist. They are the racist. Not only are they the racist, they actually are about nothing but more control, more big government spending, more big government power. And if we do not stand up to them, if we do not speak out, use our voices, educate ourselves, like I said, and I say this all the time, don't take my word for nothing. Go look it up for yourself. I'm giving you a path of travel. I'm giving you, hey, this knowledge is out there. Go look it up, read it for yourself. You'll see I'm telling the truth, okay? If you don't go look for yourself, that's not my fault. If you want to stay blind to what's going on around you, that's not my fault. I'm trying my best here to help people, to get people to understand that for 30 years, these people have controlled our education systems. They have controlled the media narrative, and they have lied to us. They have lied to us all. You have to free your mind of all that indoctrination of bullshit. And if you don't free your mind of that indoctrination of bullshit, then you're looking at the world through a curved lens, and it's the curve that they want you to have. You've got to go research for yourself. You've got to free your mind. If Americans across this country do not free their minds, we're going into a deep, dark, dangerous place. Right now, I still believe the silent majority is out there, and I still think we can win this thing. However, there's still ways for it to be taken from us. They're going to use coronavirus as a way to keep Biden from debating Trump. Trump's going to murder Biden on a debate. I mean, absolutely wipe the floor with him, because Biden is no longer there. He's not there mentally. He flip-flops on his policies depending on what day of the week it is. He's been in Congress for 45 years, done nothing mentionable except enrich himself, except in going back for these lobbyists and making a lot of money, helping the big banks, helping all these people that the Democrats swear up and down are the enemy. They have made so much money off these people. And the way you could tell they're hypocrites, I'll say it again, is they will tell you you need to do this with your money, but they don't do that with their money. They're not into giving away any of their money. Bernie Sanders, the biggest socialist out there, Bernie Sanders says, hey, you know what? We should all give all our money away, this, that, and the other. Well, he's talking about us, because if you notice, whenever he got his millions of dollars off his book deal, he didn't give up none of his bread. He kept it all. And he even turned around and said, well, you know, if you want to write a book, you can make you some money. That's not what you're telling working class Americans. You're telling working class Americans we should go to work and give all our money away. Why do you hold yourself above that? These are the people we are dealing with. We are dealing with hypocritical bureaucrats. They are hypocritical, or hypocrites, I should say. They're hypocrites. They don't believe in what they preach. They don't practice what they preach. They are no good for this country. AOC is an idiot. She is a plain idiot. And she comes out with all this craziness that comes out of her mouth. And so AOC, she was born into wealth. She did not grow up in the streets of Brooklyn like she says. She came up from a predominantly white, predominantly rich neighborhood. Very, very wealthy neighborhood. She had very wealthy parents. She's never actually been poor. She's never actually had to work herself. But she will sit there and tell you about all this injustice, this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? It was all funded by George Soros. AOC was handpicked by George Soros and his organizations to take that role. She's so dumb, she doesn't even know what she's doing in life. And she's so dumb that she doesn't even realize that George Soros was actually a Nazi in Hitler's army. So George Soros, who was actually a Nazi, is funding Antifa. He's funding Black Lives Matter. He's funding all these things to try to disrupt our country and to pass socialism. If you look, the Nazis were socialists. Adolf Hitler was socialist. They were big control government socialists. They tried to conquer the world. When they failed, you still had some of them come out very wealthy, like George Soros, who actually is now trying to still push Hitler's agenda through globalism and through interfering in our country. Because if they take the United States, they take the world. We cannot allow that as Americans. We cannot allow them to take the United States. We cannot allow them to take the world. At that point, it's irreversible. We cannot fix it. The only thing we could do at that point is say, hell no, we're not going with it. We'd rather fight and put our lives on the lines fighting. That's all we can do. Or we can get in front of it. We can spread the word. We can communicate. And we can tell people what's really going on. Like I say, they don't got to believe me. I'm giving them the information. Go look it up. Look it up for yourself. Google's a real easy thing to use. Safari. But make sure you're not reading some left-wing propaganda website, because there's a lot of them out there. A lot of this information you'd have to find in like libraries and stuff, because of the fact that they have basically wiped it off the internet to hide the history of the Democratic Party and how racist and evil they are. Anyways, I didn't want to run on and on tonight, but I did want to talk about the differences in a progressive stronghold versus a conservative free state. People wake up, get out there, learn your history, learn what is going on in this country right now. Open your eyes, free your minds. You've got to free your minds. We can still win this. We can still make our country better than it's ever been for everybody. Full equality for everybody, the way Martin Luther King saw it. If you look at Martin Luther King was a great man. He was a very, very intelligent man. And he realized that this country has the potential to make everybody great, as long as you follow the laws and as long as you believe in equality for everyone. The Constitution's there for everyone. It's there. You've just got to learn it. You've got to learn what your rights are. You've got to learn how to get this indoctrination out of your head. I'm going to digress at that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm about to take it to bed, because I got another 12-hour day tomorrow. But this is so important to me. So important to me that even if I work 12 hours, I'm still going to come and I'm going to talk and I'm going to try to at least reach one person somewhere. Hopefully they'll reach another person. God bless you. Guys, we're in a very, very serious state. We're in the worst state we have been in since Abraham Lincoln was elected and since we had the Civil War between the Republicans and the Democrats. The Republicans won that. Keep in mind, the Democrats fought on behalf of slavery. Freed slaves, actually helped form the Republican Party and fight with the Republicans against the Democrats and their slavery. Keep that in mind. You got to learn your history, folks. Got to. Well, that's all talking for me tonight. I'm out. Like I say, God bless you. Be safe. Watch your back out there. And we'll talk again later.